Hey, what's up, everybody? It is a Tuesday, gonna be a clear Tuesday. A little warmer than yesterday, currently 45 degrees, high of around 71. 12:12 is the moon rise, and the moon set is gonna be 5:14 p.m. And we have a waning crescent moon. So, we're going to study a Job. I'm going to try and get through two chapters today, so I'm going to try and keep it moving. We're in Job 29, and in 29, Job, he starts off with remembering. He says, "Oh, that I were as in the months of old." And, he liked his old life. He's remembering his old life. He liked his old life, and he was blessed with God's protection. He said, um, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon me. And then in verse 4, when his when the friendship of God was upon my tent, when his friendship was in his house, in his dwelling, where over his home, right? As for me and my house, we serve the Lord, and in that, um, he in his serving of the Lord, there was friendship. And here in verse 7, we see him illustrating his type or his analogous position as ruler, right? He says, "My seat in the square, when I went out of the gate of the city, when I prepared my seat in the square," right? And then, he was a respected ruler. That's 8 through 11. The young men saw me and withdrew, and the aged rose and stood. They respected him. They reverenced him. One commentary that I use overall uses Job as a type or a analogous metaphor for the position and the pouring out and the disrespect of the people with Jesus, as Job is to Jesus. Um, I don't know about all that. I don't know if I agree with that. I can see poetically how one could come to that. Um, I don't know. But what I do know is the people that when he was in rule, they respected him. The voice of the nobles was hushed. They quieted themselves, and he's gonna give us why in 12 to 17, because I delivered the poor. Right, that's what he says in 12, verse 13. I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. He elevated people. I put on righteousness. 14. I was the eyes of the blind. 15. I was father to the needy. 16. uh, 17. I broke the fangs of the unrighteous. He protected them as well. See, now this got me thinking about in Ezekiel and Jeremiah, the warnings and uh, the rebuke for the shepherds, the rebuke for the pastors, the rebuke for the priests, the elders, the men, uh, and how they treated the people. They, they lent on interest. They put people down to elevate themselves. They were hungry to feed their lusts, right? And so here, Job, I do see as in this sense as a picture, imagery, or metaphor, or analogous relationship for how the shepherd ought to be. Right here in this little piece, um, I broke the fangs of the unrighteous and made him drop his prey from his teeth. That is the weak. Okay, that is the weak. Now, in 18 through 25, um, you know, this is what Job thought his life would end like. 18, so in, I guess that's 18 through 20, what Job thought. He says, because you got these little quote things here, and so that's the end of the quote. I shall die in my nest. I shall multiply my days. This is why he thought that, right? Or what he thought at the end of his life should be like. and 21 and through 25 is the evidence of why he thought it, right? So I thought my roots would spread out through the waters, so he would live a prosperous life into his old age, right? But not just prosperous, but righteous, a righteously prosperous life, because he lifted other people up. He delivered the poor, right? He caused the widow's heart to sing these things that the shepherd ought to do. And when the shepherd does that, he visions the shepherd or him um, living a prosperous, righteous, or righteously prosperous life. And then here's the reason why he had that thought. Men listened to me and waited and kept silent for my counsel. After I spoke, they did not speak again, and my word dropped upon them. They waited for me as for the rain. Um, they opened their mouths for the spring rain. I smiled on them when they had no confidence, right? Like, I chose their way and sat as chief, and I lived like a king among his troops, like one who comforts mourners. See, the 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 king or the shepherd is actually the servant. He elevates his people. See, he doesn't drag his people. He serves and elevates them. Now, chapter 30. But now they laugh at me. See, there's a big difference. But now they laugh at me. The um, men who are younger than I, whose fathers I would have disdained to set with dogs of my flock. Now we have a different ruling class here. See, here's what's happening now. It's a different ruling class, and um, he says, "What could I gain from the strength of their hands?" So how can they elevate him when they're people that he wouldn't even let go with the dogs of his flock, right? His flock of dogs, he wouldn't even let these people be within them. Men whose vigor is gone, right? Vigor for righteousness, vigor for God, vigor for just living, uh, not just living, holy living. The vigor for holy living is gone, but they do have a vigor for self. And we know that from verse 3. Through want and hard hunger, right? For desire, for want, the power of the impact of the world on the heart, right? That's the power of the impact of the world on the heart. Through want and hard hunger, it says they gnaw at the ground by night and waste and desolation. They pick stalwart and the leaves of bushes. Now, the stalwart is a bush with sour tasting leaves. And then it says, and the roots of the broom tree for their food. Now, the broom tree is a tree with a poisonous root. Okay? They don't even care anything that even looks fruitful. They're going to pick. They're going to take. They're going to wipe it clean. They're going to essentially extort everything from everybody and everywhere, right? Every crop, everything. In the gullies of the torrents they must dwell. Let me go back to verse 5. You know, they are driven out from human company. They shout after them as after a thief. In the gullies of the torrents they must dwell. In holes of the earth and of the rocks. See, these type of rulers, they're despised by their people, right? Job, he wasn't despised by his people at first. However, I think we see as this goes on, and we start to see from 9 through 13, this type of smear campaign by these people, and how they use Job and market Job and advertise Job and parade Job's situation to elevate themselves, right? It's a smear campaign. They're using Job's calamity to raise themselves. That's 9 through 13. And now I've become their song. I am a byword to them. Who's them? Who's they? That's those wicked rulers, right? Those wicked rulers who are senseless, a nameless brood. Uh, they have wiped out of the land, right? They have wiped out of the land. They've wiped out of the land, all of it, gone. And now I've become their song. They abhor me because God has loosed my cord and humbled me. See, they're doing the same thing that his friends are doing, or their friends, his friends are a type or a imagery of the wicked rulers, right? Of the wicked rulers. And as going down, they break up my path, they promote my calamity, they need no one to help them. Why? Because as verse 14, as through a wide breach they come, amid the crash they roll on. They're using low hanging fruit, y'all. How hard is it to move an army through a wide gate, right? Not very hard, right? Through a wide breach they come. It's it's not that hard to step on somebody when they're down, y'all. It really isn't. And this wasn't. This was a easy manipulation of the people to turn them. And now my soul is poured out within me. The days of my affliction have taken hold of me. Now, let's go down to verse 20. Look, the tone changes here in 20 to 23. I cry to you for help. Now, this you is singular, and he's talking to somebody specific, and he's talking to God. This thee is God. I cry to you for help, and you do not answer. I stand, and you only look at me. He's talking to God, and he's like, God, I'm crying out to you, and you're not answering. You're only looking at me. And, here's the thing. His prayer is heard, but not acknowledged or acted upon by God yet. Why? Because there's an example being made. There's something that God's going to use from this for a purpose. See? So verses 20 through 23, he is talking specifically to or about God himself. Okay? For I know that you will bring me to death and to the house appointed for all living. But even in that, he knows that God is going to bring him to the house appointed for all living. So, here's the thing. This is proper theology. It's not how you live is what you get, like the friends are thinking, or their theology, that this is coming upon him because he is unrighteous or not saved, does not believe in God, and that he's this is because of some sort of sin. No, and it's not necessarily that he's a sinner, though he is a sinner. It's because it is God's hand, and he is a believer, and even in our calamity for the believer, we have the hope of eternal life, y'all. Through Jesus, in all our calamities, in all our faults, in all our sins, in all of our struggles, our hurts, our consequences of sins, we still have this hope that we are appointed for the house of the living. Okay, Then he says, "Did I not weep for him whose days was hard?" So he's remembering how he ruled and helped, right? He's remembering how he ruled and helped. And then, but when I hoped for good, evil came. Yeah, that happens. That does happen in this life, But we do have the hope in the next life to be in that appointed house of the living. My inward parts are in turmoil, yes, and never still. Yes, days of affliction come to meet me. Listen, in our calamity, rejoice in the trials and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah, that's the right thought or the right theology. But how do we feel? This is real, y'all. This is real. This is a real pouring out of this man. And he, it's yes, and don't get me wrong, those trials, they do stretch us and they bring us closer to faith unto the ends of our salvation. I understand that, and we need to understand that. But and we also need to understand our humanity, and in that, then we can recognize these feelings and be able to overcome them and not let them turn us, like the devil says in the very beginning. Job will turn. See, this is what prevents Job from turning, as the devil suggested to God. But God knew he wouldn't. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day.